You gonna sit down, baby? Yeah? Yeah. We can cuddle. I'm just gonna be talking, is that okay? Hello friends, and welcome to another vlog channel video, though this video is actually not gonna be a vlog. I was thinking about what I wanted to do for my next video, and I don't know, I feel like I'm kind of not stuck in a rut with what I'm doing lately, but in the past few videos you could probably see that like all I'm doing is training, and I really don't have like mental time for that much else, and I'm not doing anything all that exciting, and that's just what I'm doing this week as well. But the one thing I have been doing quite a lot of still is reading, but I don't think I've actually been talking about it that much in my videos, and so I wanted to go and like try something a little bit different. I have collected all of the books that I have read over May and June and into the present, I guess, so halfway through July. And I wanted to talk about all of them and kind of rate them for you. Like share my ratings and what I thought about them and stuff like that, because I don't know, it just felt like a fun thing to do because I've not talked about most of these, maybe like for a second here or there, but nothing proper. And so I've also read quite a lot of books during this time, read/listened to. I read on my Kindle for the most part, and I listen to audiobooks, and I'm typically reading two at the same time because my brain thinks audiobooks are a completely different beast, which is fair. Yeah, are you comfy? Yeah. The only thing that's missing right now is a cup of tea, but I can't get up now. But yeah, so I've gone through and I have pulled all of my thoughts together on all of the different books that I've read in the past couple months, and I wanted to share them with you. So that's what this is today. If you want some book recommendations, this is a good place to get them. If you're just curious as to what I'm reading and what I think about things, this is a fun video for that. If you're not here for that, then I'm sorry, just skip on ahead to the next video, but I like watching videos like this, and so why not make one? Because like, that's what this channel's for. It's still so new. I can make it whatever I want. And please tell me if you don't like this sort of thing or you wouldn't want me to do it again, because then I just won't. So anyways, let's get started. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And originally I'd seen this book all over sort of like TikTok and online and stuff, and I wasn't exactly sure whether or not it was my cup of tea. Like, my brain would just see the title, see the cover, and kind of, I don't care about who this like fictional famous actress has been married to. Like that just, it didn't pique my fancy until I read other books by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And y'all know how much I love Daisy Jones and the Six. I absolutely love that. This book is also in that universe, and Malibu Crush, I think, is also, is it called, no, Malibu Rising is what it's called. These are all books within the Reidverse, aka like a fictional universe. And so this kind of goes through that as well, and it has like connections with other books that she has written in this universe that like aren't connected fully, but like they are at the same time. Like she married one of the dads of the kids in Malibu Rising, and that was like one of her marriages. And so it just makes for a really like odd interconnected world that I quite like. But I was so pleasantly surprised by this book. I don't want to give anything away because it does change it a little bit, and it doesn't say in the synopsis what the sort of forbidden love that Evelyn Hugo had. It doesn't say it in the synopsis, and I don't want to ruin it for anybody else who's going to read it, because it was such a pleasant surprise for me. Okay, so this is kind of a really weird one because I would have wanted to know this, and I think I would have been more keen on reading the book had I known that this was the case, but I don't want to like spoil it for anybody else if they're interested in reading this book and would like it to be like technically spoiler free, even though it doesn't. I don't think it would really ruin it. But if you don't want to know this thing, skip to this time down below and you'll have gone past it. But essentially there's LGBTQ representation in it, and like good LGBTQ representation, and talking about it throughout history, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. As someone who's not straight themselves, like, I just really love seeing representation, especially bi-representation in books, because that's what I am, and I feel like there's not enough of that out there in the world. And so I thoroughly enjoyed that bit of that like aspect of the book that I didn't know was a thing. I didn't know that it was part of it, but so worth it. And also, the end of this book, I was just listening to it in Waterstones actually on the way to meet a friend, and I was just in Waterstones shocked and like crying. Like, it was so, like, I just got so invested in the characters, and it was just it was so unpredictable, and I'm really glad I read it now, and I rated it 5 stars. Ooh, have I? Okay. I rated it 5 stars because I thoroughly enjoyed it. Around the same time, I started reading Ink Blood Sister Scribe by Emma Torres. Not quite sure on the pronunciation of that. But I had heard such good things about this one as well, and it got to the point where I had picked it up when I'd gone book shopping several times, and I'd read the back, and it's like, it kind of interests me, it kind of doesn't. A story of long lost sisters, rekindling stuff to save families thing. This is a fantasy fiction book, and it just, the back didn't quite pull me, and to be honest, the first half of the book did not quite pull me. I was not very much enjoying the book, especially for the whole first half of it. So much so that I went and read a different book halfway down the middle, and I feel like that was a really good choice because I needed a break from it. It wasn't captivating me the way I wanted it to. But the second half of this book, I thoroughly freaking enjoyed. I just feel like it really picked up in the second half, and I really, like, the story got going, and the ending made me sad that it was a standalone. And not that it didn't resolve itself, because it did kind of resolve itself, but I feel like the author could very well make this into a series. I don't know if they are. As of right now, it doesn't look like there's any plans to do so. I did like a very initial Google searching, and it doesn't seem to be anything going forward on this one, but that doesn't mean it won't in the future. I don't know. I wish there was more in this world, because I found the world and like the fantasy land very exciting, and the connection with books, and these people are the keepers of the books, and there's only certain people who can write these magical books, and I found it to be a very interesting world that I would definitely love to read more in. And so I rated it 4 stars because the beginning was like far too slow for me. So the book that I read in between the first and second half of Ink Blood Sister Scribe was A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. And I was looking forward to reading this book, kind of, because I've read other stuff from Scarlett St. Clair before. King of Battle and Blood, which was like a sort of vampire, forced marriage, very spicy book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I rated that 5 stars. The second one in that series, I rated 4 stars. I really liked it, and it really, I don't know, like, it was just such a good series. And then A Touch of Darkness, I knew it was a Hades and Persephone retelling, and so I think that kind of put me off from the start. Not that I don't care about Hades, Persephone retellings, but I feel like, I don't know, I didn't know the story, but even though I didn't know the story, I was still bored and unsurprised about what happened. It all felt very predictable, and it read so young. The Persephone character was like really one-dimensional, and like the spice in it was really degrading, and I really disliked, and my friend Eva, we buddy read it together, because I'm very glad we get, because that was probably the only reason I was able to get through it, because we could like chat together and be like, what the heck is this stuff? We both agreed that like the whole, like, he completed her when they were having sex kind of thing, that just like, it just felt so weird. And she's a virgin as well, so it's like, how did, like, I don't know. And so there's a few more books in the series as well of the Hades and Persephone, but I do not think I'm going to be reading them, because I thoroughly did not like them, and it was such a shame because I did so much enjoy King of Battle and Blood. So I think I gave that one 2 stars because, yeah, I did 2 stars because it was just it was just so bad. I just thoroughly did not enjoy it, and I was glad to be done with it. And I think that's kind of why I was willing to go back to Inkblood Sister Scribe, because I had read like a truly terrible book, and then Inkblood Sister Scribe didn't feel as bad in comparison. So I'm not like totally going in chronological order here because there's like loads of overlap, but during this time, I was also reading some audiobooks. The first one was First Lie Wins, and this was like a thriller mystery sort of book. And I rated this one 3 stars just because I only got it because it was available at the time for me to read. I get all of my audiobooks from my library, so it was available on Libby and I could just get it right away and listen to it. None of the things that I had on hold that I was like more excited to listen to were ready yet, so this was kind of, it was there. It was a thriller mystery. It sounded like kind of interesting because it's like a sort of con artist, professional con artist vibes, pretending to be someone you're not, thriller mystery, like spy almost vibes. But it was fine. It was absolutely fine. I don't know, it just didn't enthrall me like some mysteries had previously. I wasn't like jonesing to figure out who the heck was doing the thing that was bad, and like, I don't know, it just didn't grip me all that much. I don't think I had much sympathy for the characters because they were somewhat unlikable, which, I mean, maybe that's the point, but it just made it slightly less fun. So I got through it. It was fine. I didn't want to like stop because I did want to know what happened in the end, but I think I would have been fine also not reading it. That sounds like really harsh criticism. Also, you might notice there's trends in here of like, I tend to listen to more thriller mystery stuff, whereas I read on my Kindle more fantasy stuff. And I don't know why I do that. But I like how I do that. I think it's because I like to separate what I'm reading physically and what I'm listening to. So then there's like no confusion between like different worlds and whatever. So I like listening to thriller mystery stuff. It's kind of like true crime podcasts. I really love those as well. After that, I listened to Starling House again. This was one that I got because it was available on Libby and I was still waiting for some other things. And I did like this one quite a lot more. I really loved the cover art on this one. I feel like these starlings and like the colors in it, it's just really beautiful. And I've not really read any horror books before, so I was interested in trying out that sort of new genre to see if it's something I liked. And I did like the horror aspects of it. I wouldn't call it like horror films. It wasn't like scary in that way, but it was to do with like a haunted house. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really do well with horror films, but I feel like I can kind of more get behind horror books. We'll see. I'll give more a try, especially probably around Halloween time. I feel like that's the perfect time to read sort of horror novels. So I'll give some more of those a try then, but yeah, I don't know if it would make it easier because I don't do horror films because I hate jump scares. I hate jump scares. I scare so easily anyway. Joe could scare me if I'm like standing washing dishes in the kitchen and he like comes up to the door behind me and goes, hey, I'll jump. Like, I scare so easily, and so if it's like intentional in the film, it just does not work for me. But can you get a jump scare in a book if you're reading it? Maybe if you're listening to it, but I don't know. A book that actually one of my patrons / one of you here, Natalie, recommended that I listen to The Invisible Life of Addy Laroo, and that was the next audiobook I listened to. So Joe and I actually started trying to listen to it while we were on our Scotland road trip, and Joe was driving, I was just in the passenger seat, so I could like give my full concentration basically to listening to this audiobook. But Joe struggled to listen to it because he was busy concentrating on driving, and I totally understand that. We basically decided to stop listening to it while we were driving just because Joe wasn't enjoying it. It just felt a bit stressful, and so I took a pause in the middle of it, but I was still really excited to keep listening to it, so I listened to the rest of it after the rest of the road trip, because we were, I don't know, I wasn't listening to audiobooks while I was on the road trip. I don't have time to do that. I listen to my audiobooks while I'm like cleaning or going for a walk, and when I'm going for a walk with Joe, I talk to Joe. So listen to this one, and I really, really, really enjoyed it. It was kind of like historical fantasy, fiction fantasy, like to modern day. I don't know how to describe it because it covers so much time, but I really, really enjoyed the premise of it and how these people find each other and kind of fit together in a certain way, and it's all like very purposeful with the sort of villain in it. I don't want to give away too much, but I really, really enjoyed the premise, and the writing style in this book was so good, and I feel like I really benefited by listening to the audiobook because I could kind of hear the emotions a little bit more in the voice, and like there was just this part I remember listening to where the narrator's just repeating, I remember you, I remember you, I remember you, and like you can feel, like, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. You can feel the passion in that and the importance of those statements, and like, oh, it was just really, really good. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and I kind of liked how it didn't end in like a happy perfect way as well. I don't think that spoils it, but thoroughly enjoyed it. Highly recommend. Definitely audiobook. I have actually gone out and gotten 2 more books by V.E. Schwab because I did enjoy the writing style so much, and these other ones sounded like good concepts as well, so I'm looking forward to reading those, and I actually got those as books for my birthday, so we'll see if I like reading it as much as I like listening to it, but I thoroughly enjoyed listening to it, and I gave it 4 stars. Okay, I'm too hot, Cleo. Can you get up, please? I'm like sweating underneath her. It's like the weather right now is absolutely dismal. It was pouring rain earlier. It's so incredibly muggy and cloudy, but it's still like really warm. Like it's actually too hot for this jumper, but I was too cold to not put it on at the same time. I don't know. Anyways, tangent over. The next book that I read that, oh my goodness, I loved so much was Lark. I had heard great things about this online as well. I know it's kind of become like big on book talk, but oh my goodness, it was so good. It started out and it started feeling a little bit YA in the sort of world, but it just got better and better and better, and this whole like magic system was really, really good, and oh my goodness. The last 45 minutes of this book, I was reading it on the stationary bike at the gym, and I was just on the stationary bike like oh my goodness, it was so good, and I cannot wait to read the next book, Nightbane. I actually have it. My friend Eva loaned it to me, and I'm really excited to read it, but I haven't read it yet purely because I didn't want to bring it with me on holiday because it's a hardback and those are heavy, and it's not mine, so I don't want to like squish it weirdly or something. So really, really excited to read the second one. I've heard the second one is really great as well. I rated Lark 5 stars. 5 whole stars. I think it definitely deserves it, and I cannot wait to read Nightbane. And I think it's Sky Shade comes out later this year as well from who's the author again? Alex Astor. So good. So good. If you like fantasy kind of things and like a little bit of romance as well, good. But yeah, the twists, so good. After Lark, I started to read The Atlas Paradox, which is book 2 in the Atlas 6 series. I struggled with this one so much to the point where I did not finish it. I DNF'd it because it was So y'all know I had trouble with the Atlas 6 because they didn't resolve what was going on at the end of the book. And I was hoping that in the beginning of the second book they would kind of resolve that end bit and kind of carry on with like more stakes. But they kind of just like carried on as if like the big thing at the end of the first book didn't happen. Like they still acknowledge that it happened, but like no one's doing anything about it. And I feel like it's something you kind of need to do something about. And maybe I just didn't get far enough in the book to have gotten to the part where they do stuff, but it was like, I found it really, really, really dull. And I feel really bad about saying that because I did quite enjoy Atlas 6. And so I was really hoping that I would like Atlas Paradox, and then I think Atlas Complex is the third one as well. I was hoping that I would get to read this whole series and really like it. But I could not finish it. And so maybe it's something I can come back to. If anyone has read Atlas Paradox or the whole Atlas series and enjoyed it, let me know if I should keep going, because as of right now, I'm not planning to pick up the book again, but I could be swayed. If you have insight into it, I could be swayed. But for now, did not finish, and I don't think I'm gonna. After that, I wanted a bit of a palette cleanser, and so One Day actually became available on my Kindle from my library, and I decided to read that. If you haven't watched One Day on Netflix and you like sort of romances, definitely watch it. If you like to read romances, this one read exactly the same as the show. I gave it 4 stars as a book. Like, I don't know, it was very much so, it was the same. And I really liked it. It had the exact same tone and vibe. And I feel like the actors in the show really, they must have read this book because they did such a good job portraying. Oh, it was so good. I cried at the end of both. And even though I knew what was going to happen in the book because I'd watched the show, I still thoroughly enjoyed it. I liked the writing. I liked the concept of going through one day a year for decades and seeing the relationship between these two people like ebb and flow over this time. It was really good. And I highly recommend that you both watch the show and read the book because they were great. The next book I listened to was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I was a little bit skeptical of this one because the cover read very YA to me. It kind of felt like 13 Reasons Why in the cover. I don't know that they're not related at all, but the like cover art just reminded me very much of 13 Reasons Why. And so it took me a while to get it, but I am so glad I listened to it in audiobook. I binged the entire thing in 2 days. I loved it so much. I really needed to know what was going to happen. It's basically this girl's trying to solve, kind of, a murder that had been solved years prior, but like in her hometown. Anyways, just go listen to it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm also really excited to watch the TV show that just came out, I think, to hopefully get a similar vibe with it. I'm really looking forward to it. I immediately went and like put all of the like rest of the series on hold at my library. So I'm really looking forward to listening to the rest, and hopefully they will be as good as the first one. This next one I again got because the audiobook was available, but I feel like it was so much better than a lot of the other like available audiobooks that I have listened to. This one was called None of This Is True. So it's about this podcaster and she meets this other woman, and it kind of goes into true crime vibes. Like, obviously it's not true crime because it's a fiction, but you wanna come back? Come here, baby. No, you just wanna hit my tripod instead? You gonna come back? Come here, baby. Come here. I know you want the chair all to yourself, but you can't have the chair all to yourself. You can come up here. Okay. But I found it so creepy and entertaining and like very, very listenable. Like, you kind of get it from perspectives of the two female main characters, and like at first I was listening and I didn't know which one, like you kind of have a feeling of which one's gonna go wrong, but at the same time they're both so weird and they've got a lot going on in their lives that it just kind of works. And it was really, really, really interesting, and if you like listening to sort of true crime podcasts, you'd probably like listening to this book. And even though it's not true, because it's a fiction, it was quite entertaining, and I don't know, I just really liked that kind of thing. Weird, but good. The next book that I read on my Kindle was Godkiller by Hannah Kaner, and this one was really, really good as well. I gave it 4 stars. Again, it's a fantasy. I pretty much, yeah. I pretty much only read fantasy on my Kindle. I mean, you could tell by the books that I've talked about in this video. But like the female main character in this one is such a freaking badass. And I really liked the sort of LGBTQ representation. I'm pretty sure she's bi as well. Like, but it's not like a thing. I think that's part of why I like fantasy. At least a lot of the fantasy novels that I have read, the like queer representation is very much there, but it's not talked about something that's like, oh, they're gay. It's just, oh yeah, this lady, the barkeeper and her wife. Like, it's just what it is, and it's not a thing. And I do really, really, really like that about fantasy. And that's kind of how this one worked as well. Not that it was really a romance. I wouldn't class it as a romance, but I don't know, it just feels good to have representation in books in general. I really like it. I also forgot to mention that there's amazing disability representation in this book as well. The female main character is missing part of one of her legs. She's got a prosthetic, and there's another character that's deaf and they use sign language. Another one's in a wheelchair, and like I forgot to mention it because it's like it's not that it's glossed over, but it's like again, it doesn't matter. It's just part of the world, and no one's like seen as worse off for having a disability. Like the characters, some just like no sign, and I really thoroughly enjoyed that bit of the book. So yeah, even better with some disability representation. And I also really liked the sort of world that they had built, and the whole thing about gods being like outlawed and hunted, and the sort of unlikely allies coming together. Also, the young girl in it is also a badass, and like the little god that goes around with them. This was one of the books that I really wanted to look up fan art of immediately, but I didn't want to spoil anything in the book, so I didn't look it up. But I feel like the god in it, I will put a picture of him in here. Yes, hello. I'll put a picture of him in here of fan art because it is so cool. He's like part rabbit with like antlers and wings. So he's got like feathers and fur and antlers. So cool. And he can like change sizes between like a dormouse and a wolf. How cool is that? So I thoroughly enjoyed this one. 4 stars, and definitely looking forward to reading the second one. So a book that I listened to and unfortunately I did not finish was Lessons in Chemistry. I really wanted to like this book because I had heard great things about it. It's got great reviews on Goodreads. I feel like it was high up in sort of books that people recommend you read. Similar to like Evelyn Hugo. I'd heard about it quite a lot, and I was skeptical about reading it. I was skeptical about reading this one as well, but it came up on my audiobook holds as something that I could listen to, and I started listening to it, and I don't know if it's just the telling in the audiobook that just didn't quite capture me, or the story, but I am not at all invested in the main character and the like love interest. I have 0 investment in them, and I didn't get very far in it, and so maybe I just need to keep going with it. Or I can see the book on my shelf right now. I have the physical book because a friend gave it to me, and maybe I just need to read the physical book instead of listening to it, but as of right now I DNF'd it, and I think if I went back to it I would probably go back to try and reading the book as opposed to listening to the audiobook, because I did not care. I didn't care at all. And so I mean, I feel like life's too short to listen to things that you don't want to listen to, or read things that you don't want to read. So I used to not be very good at DNFing things, because I'd be like, oh, I must finish it. But now I'm like, why would I want to spend time listening to something, reading something, watching something on TV that I don't actually enjoy? I just feel like, why would I want to spend my time doing that? I don't. So just stop and then carry on with something else. Right, so now we are up to what I'm currently reading, and I obviously don't have reviews for these things yet, but I can tell you my initial thoughts on them, and yeah, just like get you fully up to speed on where I am in my reading journey, because these are books, I think 40 and 41 out of the 50 that I'm trying to read this year. I say read, I'm reading and listening to all of them. So first up, the audiobook I'm listening to is Mother Daughter Murder Night. Another mystery, not a surprise. Again, this was one that was just available for me to listen to. I sort by like popularity as well, but typically ones that are like really, really popular aren't available now because people have them out, and so I can't get them. But I am thoroughly enjoying this one thus far. I like that it's like 3 generations of women, so the grandma, the mum, and the daughter, all kind of thinking about this mystery that's occurring around them, and all of them are so cool in their different ways. As of right now, if I had to stop the book and just think of the best possible ending I could think of, it would be like 4 stars, but I am only 60% of the way through. We don't know what's happened yet, and I'm excited to find out what does. So looking forward to finishing the end of that. And then the book that I'm reading on my Kindle is the Justad Air by Sarah Hashem. And this one, it was actually a recommendation from one of my friends who gave it 5 stars, and I'm not that far in it. I'm about 1/3 of the way through. I have my Kindle right here. But I do really like where it's going. So far, it kind of feels like the first book of Throne of Glass. Like, slightly different, but very much so like, oh, the king needs a champion, the female main character is nominated to be the king's champion, or like the realm's champion, or whatever, and they need to deal with those things. But I, so far, am really liking it. Even though this one is first person, typically I don't read very many first person perspective books, but this one so far is pretty good, and I don't mind being inside her head and listening to all of her thoughts. Like I thought I might, because sometimes when you're listening to all of the characters' thoughts, it can get quite overwhelming. And in this one, I don't really have a problem with it. And I look forward to seeing what happens. I don't think I can rate it yet because I am only 33% of the way, and I don't think it's quite picked up yet. I think it does need to pick up a little bit in order for me to potentially be giving it 5 stars down the line, but it has the possibility to do that. I still have 2/3 of the book to go, and I am looking forward to reading those 2/3. So yeah, those are all the things that I have read in the past couple months. You can see I am reading quite a lot still. I thoroughly enjoy it. I love reading before I go to bed. It's the perfect thing to help me kind of get away from screens in the traditional sense. I know I like technically read on a Kindle, which is a screen, but this screen doesn't do like the whole blue light thing like phones do, so it doesn't keep me up. Yeah, I just really love reading books and like listening to them as well. I mostly listen to audiobooks, especially also when I'm working out. If I'm not working out with Joe, I tend to listen to my audiobooks then, and I really like doing that. I feel like it's a good distraction from me being slightly miserable while I am doing the actual exercise, because it's fun, Don't get me wrong, I love doing my exercise, but while you're doing it, it can be quite intense. And so the audiobook is a good thing to like distract me from that. So yeah, I'd be curious to hear of any books that you have read recently that you really liked, whether you read them physically or on an ebook or in an audiobook. Let me know down below and maybe I can add it to my list of things to read down the line. And if you like this video, please let me know. Please tell me. Give it a thumbs up, comment. And also if you didn't, let me know as well, because I can never do this again. But hopefully that isn't the case. And please do subscribe for more stuff. Anyways, goodbye! Say bye, Cleo. Bye, Cleo. I get up and she immediately just has the chair to herself again and absolutely loves it.